Hi, what's up? Todd here, and I'm in Koh Samui, Thailand. Bunch of people going crazy, partying hard behind me. But I thought I'd take a minute out and talk to you about the secret sauce that makes my game work. Really? I'm sorry, it's really nice meeting you. You're too young for me. I want you to know it's not you, it's me. I still think you're a wonderful person. I'm sure you'll meet a great guy. I'm sure one day, one day some guy will kiss you. I'm sorry that it's been so long for you. My deepest sympathies.
There's still hope.
There's still hope. You're young yet. You have a few good years left in you yet. I think that means we have to have a drink tonight.
No, I think it
I'll
means
never
quite
see you
the
again
opposite.
otherwise.
Exactly.
Huh?
I think it means quite the opposite, right?
Depends. If you're trying to have a safe, boring life, it means the opposite. If you're trying to have adventures, it means yes.
Adventures? I wonder what type of adventures you're talking about.
My only argument is that I think we'll both have a more interesting evening talking to each other than hanging out with nobody. Is that fair?
Okay, let's head that way.
Okay. So I'm gonna give you some examples of what some of those things are, how they manifest, and what the attitudes behind them are. But really, the theme I wanna get to today, it all comes from an old school pickup idea that's known as active disinterest. Okay, active disinterest. Now we all know the phenomenon that when you like a girl, it's almost certain you won't get her. When you don't care that much about a girl, it's almost certain she's gonna have a crush on you, right? That's probably happened to you since you were in middle school. Right, the girl you had a crush on didn't know you existed, but there were these random girls that you barely knew existed that would seem to flirt with you, or you just knew you could have them if you wanted to. And what creates that phenomenon is this disinterest, right? When you're not interested in someone, when you kind of have better things to do, that conveys such higher value, it conveys a lot of abundance, and people really do chase what they can't get. So it's a really powerful tool. And that happens oftentimes passively when you're around someone for a long period of time. Like you're in class with someone, they work with you, something like that. They see you over a period of time. They see you, demonstrating excellence, doing what you do naturally, not trying hard, and they kind of get a crush on you. That's passive disinterest. And that can work in a social circle, that can work in an ongoing scenario. But in a cold approach pickup scenario, you can't really be passively disinterested, right? Passive disinterest in cold approach would look like not approaching the girl, which we all know doesn't work, right? So what you have to do in a cold approach scenario is what we call active disinterest, meaning you go in, you actually are engaging the girl, but you're not letting her know she can have you, right? If anything, you're pushing her away or you're dismissive. And a lot of guys try this, but they do it in a very button pushing way. For example, if you're like, you and I will not get along, and you give that kind of look where you're like, did it work? I hope it worked. Did my little technique have an effect on you? If you care whether it had an effect, you clearly are interested. You're clearly not disinterested. So even though the words you said were disinterested, everything underlying them actually was interested. And in fact, the fact that you said those words while you're clearly interested makes you even more interested. And it also makes you disingenuous, makes you phony, makes you not trustworthy. And so it doesn't work. So a lot of guys, when they're employing pickup techniques, they do these kind of things where they're saying the right things, technically, but their body language, their intonation, their attention, their eyes are saying all the wrong things, and worse yet, they're saying things that are incongruent. In fact, a lot of guys will do better in pickup just by being direct and just saying, hey, I like you, right? And the reason for that is that at least that's congruent. It may be giving their power away a little bit, but at least it's congruent, at least it's believable, at least they're coming from a genuine place. But that will work up to a point. That'll work, say if you're a guy that, your core presentation or your immediate first impression is something along the lines of maybe an 8, that'll work with a girl that's a 7 because she'll feel happy to get you and she'll feel the value coming off you. Also, if you're inherently an 8 and you're talking to a girl that's like a 7, the longer you spend with her, the more she's just gonna realize you have value regardless. But if you're a guy that at first glance is maybe an 8 and you're talking to a girl who's a 10 and you go in and you show too much interest, well, she's had that before and she's not really into it because she can get a guy who is like her 9 or 10. So a guy who's an 8 just isn't registering on that level, especially when you're putting your agenda out there like, hey, I'd like to have sex. Right away, she's like, well, appreciate it. Thanks for the compliment, but no thanks. I think I'll wait around for a 9 or a 10. Or I'll wait around for a guy who I find emotionally relevant, a guy who I want to chase. So this is where this active disinterest stuff comes in. Now, in old school can game, active disinterest took the form of negs, back turns, that kind of stuff. So for example, you might be talking to a girl and you're like, you know what, you and I are not gonna get along, right? And that can work really well because it's a disqualifier. Now again, most guys when they do that line, they go, you and I are not gonna get along. And they sit there waiting to see if it worked. They sit there waiting for a reaction. The way that's actually supposed to work is you do it as though it's nothing. So maybe I'm in the middle of a story, I'm talking about, when I was growing up in Colorado, I played a lot of soccer, and oh my God, you and I are not gonna get along. But anyway, the thing about Colorado is da 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 da. And the idea is, it seems almost dismissive, right? It's not even the fact that what you said was a disqualifier that's working, it's the fact that you didn't care whether it worked. You couldn't even be bothered. And ideally, a good neg, they shouldn't even realize that it happened until like a second or two afterwards. So that if they try and like confront you about it or ask you about it, you're already on another topic and they look extremely reactive to you if they're responding, okay? So the idea is that disqualifier, that neg, it's doing something, but what's really having the effect is the disinterest that goes with it, the fact that you can't be bothered, you don't even care if it worked, you're just on to the next subject so quickly. And what I've realized from a lot of my coaching recently, where I was with some kind of intermediate to advanced guys who get some results, but they're not getting the results I get, is that I do a lot of these things just kind of by second nature. So I'll give you some examples of active disinterest type behaviors, right? And actually these aren't even, it's what I call aloofness. It's just not being that caught up in what's going on with that particular girl. So some of the behaviors that I do, and again, I don't even try and do this anymore, I just kind of exhibit it naturally. But one is this. Say I'm talking, maybe I'm talking over here, whatever, the girl gets my attention, instead of being like, hey, what's up? I'm back. I might be like, what was that? Right? So it's slow, it's kind of like I'm not that into it, etc. And quite frankly for me, I'm self-absorbed enough when I'm talking to girls that it might just, it probably is just natural. I probably was just thinking about something else and I was kind of like in the back of my mind vaguely listening, but I wasn't fully engaged, fully like on it. And then when she mentioned something that caught my attention, I'm like, wait, what was that? But it's not, what was that? It's sorry, did you say something? Right? It's that sort of disinterested, I'm not there kind of thing. Another one that I do, and this is just an inherent behavior I've cultivated, but it works, is you may have heard a lot about like eye contact and intensity and man to woman and sexualizing the conversation, and that's all very, very valid and it's important. If you don't do that, if you don't make moves, the girl's not gonna make moves for you. But if you're like laser eye contact the whole fucking time, then you are way, way, way too into that girl. So it doesn't really work, all right? But if on the other hand, you're sort of like, disengaged, listening, looking around, and then you're like, what's so interesting about you? Blah, 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 blah. And you're focused, you're intense, and she notices that change, that intensity, and she's very captivated by it. But then the next moment, you finish your sentence, then you get on your phone, you're messing around. Oh, cool, yeah, okay. Oh, it's very interesting, da-da-da-da-da, right? And so you need to have this quality of attention in order to snap the girl to attention, in order to get her interest, in order to be man to woman. But if you focus on her completely and intensely the entire time, you're clearly too wrapped up in what's going on. You're clearly needy, you're clearly outcome dependent. And to be fair, you probably don't do that with your friends, right? I mean, maybe you're not as bad as me about this, but I've had situations with my friends where like, we're all sitting around a table and we're all on our cell phones, like individually, not even paying attention to each other. Now, don't take it that far. Don't be like ridiculous about it. But the fact of the matter is you don't have to be super into the girl at all times. I'll give you one more quick example to illustrate the point. This is the old school idea of, you guys may have heard the idea way, way back in the day if you've been in pickup for a long time, of opening over the shoulder. If you read the book The Game, they talk about this a lot. And the idea is, essentially, if you're just walking by, you're kind of like walking, you're just like, oh, hey, what's up, da da da, and you're like rocking out like you could leave at any moment. The fact that you could leave shows that disinterest, right? It does two things actually. One is it makes the girl feel non-nervous. She's like, oh, this guy's not committing to much. He's not a big deal. He's not in imposition, so there's no danger in talking to him. So that's positive. Excuse me, but it also takes the disinterest, right? It also is you pulling away and you not being fully committed, right? She has to win you over a little bit. And that's what'll make a girl chase, right? If she feels she has to win you over, if you're not something she inherently has, she'll put a lot more value on you and you'll do a lot better overall. Now guys bastardize this idea a lot, and what they do is they do this thing where they walk in, like back into it. Hello, how are you? Let me talk to you from this weird position while I'm totally needy and reaction seeking, but I am in over the shoulder, so it must be non-needy, right? And so they're taking this action that's supposed to be a very positive thing of like talking over the shoulder, not like leaning in, being willing to leave, that kind of stuff, but they're doing it completely wrong because they're doing the technique, but it lacks the soul. And the soul is that active disinterest, that aloofness, etc. Hey. Hello. Oh shit. Never mind. I thought you were someone else, but whatever. Hi, nice to meet you.
We saw you earlier.
Huh?
We saw you earlier.
what I thought. Yeah. Nice to see you again. Are your friends here as well? Fair enough. Well, I'm glad you could join us. Yeah.
Did you get dinner in the end?
Yeah, we got a really good place down there. It's like amazing seafood, actually.
What's secret?
You
I
have.
ended up going for like pizza, the same function.
You did what?
I ended up going for pizza.
I can't deal with you anymore. Final example, and this is where active disinterest really came from, is say you're working a group. A lot of guys have trouble with girls in groups. They can talk to a girl one-on-one, they can have a normal conversation, but in a group, they have trouble with how do I engage the group and also like deal with my target. And that's because they can only game in isolation. They only game with that focus. What you want to be doing in that situation, ideally, is talking to everybody, engaging everyone, and being kind of the star of the show. But then what you do with your target is you'll active disinterest her, okay? So you'll maybe drop a neg on her, or drop a comment and then ignore the fact you did it and go on, so that she's always a step behind. You're making her special in the sense that she's the one you're commenting to, but you're not giving your power away, and if anything, you're frustrating her and being aloof towards her during the interaction. So you might be, again, telling your story, oh my God, you blink a lot. Anyway, telling your story, and again, it's a second or two before she can respond. And then once she actually chases your attention, or there's that moment when she sort of like, she gets like, oh, I can't believe it face a couple times, and then at a certain point she stops getting that. She's kind of like given up. She almost doesn't believe she can have you. That's the moment when you can go ahead and give her a little interest, let her win a little bit. And she chased and then won you over, so it feels very genuine. And she's much more likely to sleep with you because she won you over, having sex with you is now winning for her as opposed to giving in, all right? So this is one of the most powerful techniques that I've ever discovered. It's something, again, I do it naturally now because I've just been doing game for so many years, and so a lot of times I don't even talk about it because I'm not even thinking about it. Instead, it's just something in my body language, my eye contact, it just comes up. But it's something that you can implement consciously, and at the very least, is something that you can be aware of. Beyond even the physical actions, just take that frame of kind of aloof, be like, here's a phrase. Here's a phrase that I once heard from a really amazing pickup artist. He was looking around this like bar club environment, and he totally genuinely looked around and was like, is there anyone here worthy of me? And he completely meant it. Now it's narcissistic, self-absorbed as fuck, but it's also effective because that's that aloof attitude. That's that idea that you are the 10 and you have better things to do. Your life is more important than hers, that will really get you results.